Hello, all, and welcome to the latest edition of It Pays to Be Polarizing. I'm your host, John, aka JB3, and today I'm going to talk about something that I've kind of teased a couple of times and said I would talk about on a future episode, and this will be the start of that today. Today we're going to talk about TBI, also known as traumatic brain injury, and that's something that many people have gone through in their lives, whether they've had a bump on the head, whether they've had a stroke, whether they've had a concussion. All of these things can be considered a traumatic brain injury. Car accidents, things like that, striking your head, uh, having it broken open by something, having your skull fractured, all those things can be considered part of a traumatic brain injury, because generally what happens with that is something when your skull gets impacted, your brain gets impacted. And in my case, I will say it was kind of a process, a long process, but it started at a very young age. I will give you a brief history, and the reason why I started today is because today is a very important day today for me. It is today. Yesterday was the date. Today is the day. Monday, the second Monday of March, was the day that my last TBI happened, and it's the last TBI that I can ever have happen. And it was a pretty critical incident. I was injured quite severely. I was put on life support after it. But before I get into all of that and tell you more about that, I'm going to tell you about the history of my traumatic brain injuries. Yes, I said injuries because I've had far too many in my entire lifetime to even want to believe that I've had. But that's the way life goes sometimes. So, my first one, I was being a typical little boy. I think I was probably about 5 years old. We had a babysitter, myself and my sisters, and we were downstairs in our basement, and it was a raised ranch that we lived in. So the basement was a concrete floor, the whole deal, and we had an upright Playtune piano in there. So it's one of those stand-ups, those really tall style, and the babysitter sat me on top of it. First mistake. She was cute. Second mistake. And I was a boy. And I thought she was really cute. And so I thought I would try to impress my babysitter. She was playing away on the piano. And all of a sudden I jumped off the top of the piano and landed on the concrete floor on my head. I know some of you that know me are already saying that explains a lot. Well, it kind of does. But it was my first concussion. I will say that. I don't know if I was unconscious at all. I just know that I probably scared the daylights out of her, and cried a lot, I'm sure, and recovered, so to speak. Then just being a typical boy again. I had a couple others before I even got to out of grade school, playing in the backyard, playing tag, hide and seek, and all those things. We had one of those cast iron clothesline, and it was post to post. So it's probably 8 feet between, and then lines that ran across. And we were playing tag in the backyard. And again, with one of my sisters, we were playing tag, and she happened to stand in front of one of the posts because you're not paying attention. You're just kind of going around. And I went to dive into her to tag her, and she jumped out of the way, and I went headlong into the post. And this time I did lose consciousness. That I know. I was probably 7 to 10 years old, somewhere in there. And the next door neighbor came over and helped me up and got me into the house, and I was okay again, supposedly. We'll go with okay. Um, so that was my first time losing consciousness that I know of from a concussion, from a traumatic brain injury that I received before they called them that. Back then, when I was a kid, it was rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine. Yes, literally, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine, was the attitude when it came to any type of roughhousing, any type of sports injury, all those things. You just got right back in and started again. I don't recall any deficits from that. I can say this is that one of the things about me is that I never opened a book, and I have the report cards to prove it. Not that I never opened a book, but just that I was a straight A student until I hit high school, except in conduct, as you can already imagine. My conduct grades were always low because I was just always getting into something, getting into trouble. I got into more fights as a kid as well because I was small. And so I always had to stand up for myself and make sure that people weren't going to pick on me because of my size. So I probably got some injuries that way too. None that were ever documented or anything like that. But then I will say I got two pretty significant ones just before the summer before my high school years. And one was in a baseball playoff game. I had just come back from going with my mother to a doctor's appointment in Boston. She was near the end stages of cancer at that time. And I had to get back for a playoff game, and I said I would go with her to the appointment. And we got back to the playoff game, and I was late. So I was throwing my cleats on in the car, running out to the field, and I was running by the coach, said, "Coach, I'm here." And he yelled at me to get to center field. He was hitting fungos out to the outfielders, and I was a center fielder. So I was running out, and all of a sudden I just heard, "Johnny Babe, look." I heard nothing else. He hit a line drive straight off the back of my head, knocked me out cold. And that was my second time, I think, of being unconscious from one. And when I woke up, I was on the bench, had a melon on the back of my head from the bruise that it left. But again, rubbed some dirt on it, got up, felt okay, went and played the game. We won, it got us to the finals, great times there. And all was good. About 3 weeks later, after that baseball season was done, all-star tournaments were playing, and I was playing second base in an all-star tournament, and I had a really old baseball glove, and I needed to relace it, and I planned to relace it after this game. One game too late. I went to cover second base for a pickoff play by our pitcher, who threw straight fire for that age, and it was just one of those things. And all those things aligned again, and I put my hand up to catch the ball. As I went to catch it, it went right through the webbing of my glove, hit me square on the forehead, and out cold again. So twice in about 3 week period, I was knocked out cold by a brain injury. It's probably what set me in on the next part of my life, which, that's the way that goes too. I then my memory was not the same. It was still good, but I then couldn't do things like simple math. I had trouble with it. One of my high school math teachers, freshman year, could tell the difference immediately when I stepped in there, because he was also my 8th grade teacher who moved to the high school that year. And he asked what was going on, if something was going on outside, because I just wasn't me. And I didn't know what it was, because I had no idea that my brain had been so injured at that point already that it was causing a deficit in school. But I could tell because I was not retaining things. I was not able to just hear something and retain it, or see it and retain it. It took me longer, and I had to read things multiple times to get it. And I was then opening books. I couldn't retain lessons that I had even back then. The more I look back at it, and so that was that. Through, I think, senior year was when I got my next group of them. Started playing hockey with friends, and picked it up fairly well, but I was terrible to start. I will say that for sure. And we had one guy that we played with that was he was dirty all the time. That's just the way he played. He couldn't play any other way. Good, talented player, but just filthy dirty. Anybody who knows the Boston Bruins can name a couple of guys they've had that have done that kind of stuff. Think Marchand. If you think back to the 90s, you think Claude Lemieux. Think people like that were just too good of a player to play the way they played. And that's what happened there. I was coming across the middle, went to receive a pass, and got an elbow in the face. Knocked me out cold. One of my sisters was there, and she thankfully helped me. But that was it for high school. Then after high school, I was playing a pickup football game on Thanksgiving weekend with a bunch of guys, and I got destroyed when I was being held up by somebody else, by a big former offensive lineman for the Hudson High School team, and I was told, "Look out, look out, look out!" It was too late. I was already getting hit, and I was already out cold. So there's another one getting knocked out cold, but of course, rub some dirt on it, I'm fine. I sat on the side for a bit, then went back in and played. Probably not my shiniest or brightest moment, but yes, that's what I did. Then leap forward to when I was 21. I was going to pick up a girlfriend then for a New Year's Eve party up in New Hampshire. It was wintertime in New England. I hit a patch of ice, slid into a snowbank, got hit head on by a pickup truck, and broke my steering wheel in half with my forehead. I wasn't knocked out cold, but I was still concussed. That one I did get sick from. She actually had to drive us up to the place we were going to in New Hampshire, so that wasn't good. A couple more in hockey after that, for sure, playing the leagues in the summers. And then fast forward to 1998. I was working. I was at my job at UMass Medical Center in Worcester. And it was it was a regular Monday. Seemed like it was anyway. Everything seemed like it was going okay. And then a storm was forecast for that evening, an ice storm. And I was the supervisor for a courier service, for a medical courier service, also mail pickup as well. And one of my drivers called out sick because his basement was flooded and he needed to stay home and take care of his then pregnant wife with their second child. So I was fine, no big deal. Well, work will be here tomorrow. That's exactly what I said to him. Work will be here tomorrow. You stay home, take care of your family, take care of your wife. We're good. I'll take the new guy out. We had a guy starting that night. Took him out on the road. And we were at our destination, our last destination of the night, getting ready to come back. And we picked up and we drove down the hill. And that's the last thing I remember. I know from what I've been told and from what I've seen in hospital reports, in ER reports, all those things, accident reports, was that when we came down the bottom of the hill, we hit a patch of ice and we slid into an intersection and were hit by a car that was supposedly going 20 miles an hour. I say supposedly because they blew the rear tire on the opposite side of the car I was in, a Ford Explorer, off the rim when they hit us. So I find that hard to believe at 20 miles an hour still to this day. I was hit directly on the driver's door and I was driving. The car tilted to one side, came back, and the door had opened up on my side because it was pretty much ripped off, and it threw me out onto the pavement on my head. Knocked out cold for that one too. And got my last ever traumatic brain injury I can get. I was taken to the ER, and that's all about. For looking at the time right now, it's noontime in where I am. It's 1 o'clock on the East Coast, so about 6 hours from now is when the accident happens. Right about now, actually, 10 to 12 after, 7 p.m. I was taken to the ER. I was given atropine because my heart slowed down. I was given a 3-epi push twice because the first one didn't work. And I was brought back and in a coma at that point in time because of the significant injury I received. And my family received a call and to let them know that I had been in an accident and I was not in good shape and they needed to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. One of my good friends picked up my dad, brought him in. One of my other sisters got there as quickly as she could because she had a son of her own, actually 2 at that point, I think. 2. And it was just, it was hard for her to try and get them late at night. And it was a bad night. It was just an ice storm, rain, snow, fog, everything in New England you can imagine on a spring storm. And they had to get to the hospital to see if I was going to live or die. And to leave it like a cliffhanger, I'm going to leave it like that for today. Please subscribe if you would. Like this content if you want to see or hear more of it. And leave a comment so I can respond. I'd appreciate that as well. Once again, this it pays to be polarizing. Not to put a damper on your day, but always have a good day. That's one thing I'll say for you now. I know that's a tough story to hear, but there's much more to come. So have a good day all. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Have a good day.